Welcome to this Azure Administrator course. It's the very beginning of the course, and I'd like to make a brief course overview here. So, Microsoft Azure Administrator certification, if you'd like to pass the certification, or skill if you want to get just Microsoft Azure Administrator skill, covers 6 essential areas of cloud administration. Now I've opened the prerequisites for Azure administrators, and the structure of the course focuses on practical skills needed for managing Azure environments in professional settings. The first section introduces prerequisites for Azure administrators. This section builds a technical foundation necessary for working with cloud services. When starting the certification journey or Microsoft Azure Administrator role, these fundamentals ensure readiness for more complex topics. Following this, identity and governance management, which forms the second section. So if I switch from prerequisites, we'll be talking about prerequisites later on to the whole course structure here. You'll find this section 2 after Azure Administrator Prerequisites, which we've just seen, the Identity and Governance section. And the content covers Azure Active Directory implementation and resource governance. Additionally, this section addresses subscription management and cost control methods. If we go further and minimize this and expand Storage Solutions section, it focuses on Azure Storage Solutions. The storage components include blob storage, file shares, and storage security configurations. Furthermore, this section covers data protection and backup strategies. Moving on to first section, we examine Azure Compute Resources. The Compute section addresses virtual machines, container services, and serverless computing options. Also covered are deployment strategies and scaling considerations. The fifth section concentrates on virtual network configuration. The networking components include virtual networks, subnets, and network security. This section also covers connectivity options and traffic management. And the final section, section number 6, addresses monitoring and backup solutions. The monitoring tools help track resource performance and health. Along with this, backup strategies ensure data protection and business continuity. Now let's get back to the previous slide with prerequisites for this course, Azure Administrator course, which is quite massive and extensive. So I'll switch back to the prerequisites slide here. Now let's explore the technical prerequisites needed for Azure administration. The fundamental requirements ensure successful progression through the certification content. First and foremost, administrators need basic experience with operating system. This includes working knowledge of both Windows Server and Linux environments. The operating system skills support effective virtual machine management and configuration, and we'll be covering all these basics during prerequisites lectures. We'll be covering Windows Server administration basics, Linux basics commands, and VM configuration experience as well. From a networking perspective, if I expand this section, administrators should understand IP addressing and network protocols. The networking concepts include DNS, TCP/IP, and routing basics. These fundamentals support Azure network configuration and troubleshooting. Now, speaking of technical skills, familiarity with command line interfaces is essential. The administrators should know basic PowerShell commands and Azure CLI syntax. These tools enable efficient resource management and automation, and we'll be covering all these basics in this course as well. Before we start, the main course of Azure Administrator will cover all these prerequisites for you to be comfortable to proceed with the Azure Administrator course core content. Now, the service management aspects require understanding of web technologies, knowledge of HTTP, HTTPS protocols, and SSL or TLS security is necessary. This understanding supports configuration of web-based application and services. For database and storage section of prerequisites, basic SQL knowledge supports Azure database management. The database concepts include queries, backup procedures, and security measures. These skills help manage Azure SQL and other database services. Additionally to this, scripting and automation knowledge improves administrative efficiency. So understanding JSON format will help you with Azure Resource Management templates. Similarly, basic scripting skills support procedure automation and configuration management. Now, to prepare for certification and for the skill of Azure Administrator, hands-on experience with Azure Portal is necessary. The practical experience should include creating and managing basic resources. This experience builds familiarity with Azure interface and workflows. Finally, understanding the cloud computing concepts provides important context. The concepts include service models, scaling, and high availability. These fundamentals help administrators make informed architectural decisions. So with that said, we'll start our course with prerequisites section containing all the information and hands-on experience covering all the sections for prerequisites for Azure administrators, such as operating system. Welcome to the hands-on lesson of our Azure environment setup. We'll walk through the process step by step, simulating the commands and actions you take in a real Azure environment. First off, you'll need an Azure account. For this, you'll need an active email address. So let me create an email address for this particular course on Outlook.com. As you can see on my screen, I have Outlook.com website opened, and I can click Create Free Account. So let me type an account name, for example, Learned Lessons. Let's try this one at Outlook.com. I'll click Next and try if this name is available. As you can see, I can move on to create a password, so it means that I can use this name. So let me add my strong password here. Click Next. I'll save it for future use. Now I'll provide my first name and last name. So I'll type my name first and last name. Click Next. I'll beat the robots. Click Next. Find the correct answer for this one. Click Submit. Verification complete. Now I can stay signed in, so I'll click Yes. And that's it. I'm logging into my newly created Outlook.com mail address. I'll read a quick note about Microsoft account, click OK. Now I can use this account to create my Azure account. And to remind you, to create an Azure account, it's a completely free until you decide to switch to the paid version or paid subscription. So let me open one more tab and type azure.com. As you can see, I'm redirected to official Azure website. So let me find this big blue button. Here it is. Get started with Azure. And by the way, let me enter full screen mode here. So I'll click this Get Started with Azure blue button. And now, as you can see, we can find Try Azure for Free button right here. Let me make it larger, like this, and I'll go ahead and click this Try Azure for free. Now that's where we'll need our newly created email address. In your case, you can use any email address which you have access to. So I'll type in my email address, which is learnedlesson@outlook.com. I'll click Next. Oops, seems like I've missed one S letter here. Again, I'll click Next. And now we have started creating our new Azure free subscription, free account. As you can see, it's been pre-filled in already with my first name, last name, email address. I'll provide my phone number here, and I'll enter the verification code here, which I've got on my phone number. Let me type it in. 96, verify code. Okay, now I'll need to provide address, city, postal code, and so on. All this information is needed to be provided, so be ready to have an active phone number, a valid address, and a valid bank card. So I've added my postal address. Now I'm ready to identify verification by card. I'll need to provide my card number here, expiration date, CVV, and all these details. And don't be afraid of this step. You won't be charged anything. It's just for verification of your identity. Now it's done, and my card verification, because I've already used it and because I've been using Azure for some time, and I've already used my free subscription. But when you're registering for the first time, you'll be eligible for the free subscription for 1 year, and you'll be able to use compute resources and lots of other options completely free. We'll be talking about the benefits of free subscription later on. Right now, let's head over to Azure Portal. So I'll press this Go to Azure Portal button, and we'll be redirected to Azure Portal, and we'll get this Get Started with Azure tutorial right away. For now, I'll skip this tutorial and I'll click this Home button, and that's it, where we can start using Microsoft Azure Portal with all the resources attached to it. We can click on subscriptions right here, and we'll get the subscription name, subscription ID, and your role for this subscription. One more thing I'd like to show in this demonstration is the usage of Cloud Shell. So if you position your cursor to the button to the right of this Copilot big button and press it, that'll be Cloud Shell, and that will launch Cloud Shell. You'll get, if you are launching it for the first time, you'll get this Welcome to Azure Cloud Shell. And by the way, you'll need to run it in Microsoft Edge browser, because if you're running it in macOS Safari browser, that won't be working correctly. So you'll need to select if you want to use Bash or PowerShell. For now, I'll select PowerShell, and you'll get this Get Started window. Select a subscription to get started. You can optionally mount a storage to persist file between sessions. For now, I'll select No Storage Account Required, select my subscription, Azure Subscription 1, and click Apply. And I'll get a Cloud Shell booting up. As you can see, it's connecting terminal, requesting a Cloud Shell. We can place our cursor on this separation line, hold it and move it a bit up. And that's it. We've successfully launched Cloud Shell. We can make it larger like this, and we can clear the screen by typing clear command. And the first command I'd like to demonstrate is get And if we start typing, as you can see, we're automatically offered the continuation of our command. As you can see, we are offered get Azure subscription. So if I press right arrow, that will autocomplete this command for me. That's the command I wanted to demonstrate. Get AZ subscription. So I'll press right arrow to autocomplete this command and press enter. And that will reveal my active subscription, its name, Azure Subscription 1, its ID, and its state it's enabled. Now we can switch to Bash here. As you can see, we've got this button, switch to Bash, or we could type Bash right here, and we'll be switched to Bash commands. For instance, we could type date command, and we'll get the current date. To get back to PowerShell, just type pwsh, and as you can see, we're back to PowerShell. So that's how you use Azure Cloud Shell. Next up, we'll have a quick overview of Azure Portal, and we'll create our first resource group, which we'll be using for building our lab. I'll see you there. First glance on Azure Portal. The Azure Portal homepage is the starting point for managing all your Azure resources and services. It provides quick access to key information and commonly used tools. So we'll start with Favorites menu. This menu allows you to bookmark frequently used Azure services for quick access. Click the star icon next to any service name to add it to favorites. Useful for rapidly navigating to services you manage often. Next, Dashboard. It provides an overview of your Azure resources and usage. It's customizable widgets showing metrics and status for services. Click on Resources to manage them. Also, there is All Services link here. It goes to browsing the full catalog of Azure products and services. You can search for services by name or filter by category here. You can access service-specific portals and tools from here. Subscriptions is also very useful link and commonly used. You can switch between Azure subscriptions. You have access to see subscription details like billing and resource usage, and manage subscription settings. Resource groups. You can organize Azure resources into logical groups for management. View resource groups and resources within each group. You can create, modify, and delete resource group. Very useful link also is Recent Resources. From here you can quick access to resources you've worked on recently. It provides the resource type, name, status, and group. Click any resource to open its management portal. Up here you can find messages. It's important communications about your services and subscriptions. It may include pricing changes, scheduled maintenance, and so on. Click Messages to expand details. Next to it, you can find Settings. You can manage global Azure settings and preferences. From here, options include theme, notifications, and language. Access billing information and support requests. To the left, you can find Cloud Shell. It directly accesses the browser-based CLI for managing Azure. Choose PowerShell or Bash command experience. And finally, you can find Help and Support up here, documentation, learning resources, and support options. You can create new support requests directly and it provides alerts for service issues. So using the home page efficiently takes time but can greatly boost daily productivity. Favoriting key services, monitoring messages, customizing widgets, and utilizing recent resources are all techniques that can help streamline cloud management. Welcome back. In this demonstration, we'll take a quick look at Azure Portal and we'll create our first resource group. So let me close this Cloud Shell window. I'll make the view a bit larger like this. Now let me switch to my presentation here. So the Azure Portal serves as a central hub for managing all your Azure resources. Upon navigating to the portal, you'll be presented with a comprehensive list of all available services. Let's switch back to this portal and see that we have lots of services right away. And we can search for all other services in this search box. Okay, let's take a look at key Azure services here. First and foremost is compute resources, like virtual machines. Then we've got storage services, Azure Virtual Network. These services form the backbone of most Azure-based solutions and are crucial for setting up a robust development environment. Next up, resource management. The Azure portal offers powerful tools for managing your resources. The All Resources view displays all the resources you logged in user has access to. You can apply filters to manage multiple subscriptions effectively. Also, resource groups allow you to organize resources that share the same life cycle. Remember when we've created a Cloud Shell, we were offered a storage account to be automatically created. This is an example of how Azure manages dependencies for its services. Now, creating a resource group. To better organize our resources, we'll create a new resource group which is related to our lab. So you could have several labs, for example, Lab 1, Lab 2, and Lab 3, and to better organize the resources for each lab, it's very convenient to create a resource group dedicated to this or that lab. So resource groups help manage resources that share the same life cycle. They facilitate easier management, deployment, and access control. Resource groups are fundamental organizational unit in Azure. And to create a resource group, you will need to select a subscription, choose a region, name the resource group, and apply tags, which also helps you to organize your resources effectively. Now let's switch back to our Azure portal, and first let's take a quick look at how to explore available services. For this, you'll click this 3 dashes or 3 vertical lines right here in upper left corner. That is your portal menu. If you click it, you'll get the resources available for you. Here they are. Resource group, app services, function app, and so on. We can go ahead and select all services option, this one, and we can observe the wide range of services available in Azure. Tons of services. You can scroll down for quite a long time to scroll through all these services available on Azure. Now, if we go back to portal menu, go to all resources again, and here you could find the resource which you could create while launching Cloud Shell. So if you selected to create your storage, to attach your Cloud Shell to storage, you'll find this one resource here. In my case, I skipped this step, so I don't have any resources for now. Let me click next here and close here. And by the way, you can source your resources by subscription. For now, subscription equals all. If you've got several subscriptions, you can select the subscription and sort the resources related to this particular subscription. I'll click cancel here. Now let's create a new resource group here. So I'll select this create button with plus click it, and I'll search for resource group. Select it and select this resource group button. I'll click create and we'll get to a create a resource group window. Here we'll need to fill in all this information. First, this basic step we are already in. So here we'll need to select the subscription for this resource group. For me, that will be Azure Subscription 1. Then we'll need to give it a name. For example, I'll name it Resource Group RG dash the NetBIOS name for my domain, which is lead, and let's name it AD Lab. And by the way, I could use uppercase here like this, AD Lab, Active Directory Lab. We can scroll down and select the region. Let's click and see the available options here. So East US is selected by default. And by the way, when selecting the region, you select the location where the physical infrastructure serving your resource is located. So let's go ahead and select Europe, North Europe. When done, we can move over Tags tab and create a name and value tags right here. So name, for instance, lead, and value, for example, AD Lab. Remember that tag names are case sensitive and are limited to 512 characters. And we can go ahead and switch to Review and Create tab. The name will be RG Lead AD Lab, Region North Europe, Azure Subscription 1. In your case, the name of your subscription could be different. And by the way, you can select any region you prefer. So as you can see, validation passed here, and we can go ahead and press this Create button. I'll press it, and now I've successfully created resource group. So if I go back to all resources, then go back to home, let's make the view a bit smaller to get this notifications icon. Let's click it. No new notification for this session. Okay, let me close it and go to resource group right here. If we scroll down, you can find this resource group tab. I'll click it and we'll find this RG Lead AD Lab resource group available in North Europe. Now, we could do this operation with Azure Shell for automation, and for this you'll need to launch your Azure Shell. And by the way, let me set up my Azure Shell again. Now I'll attach the storage resource to my shell. So I'll select PowerShell and I'll select Mount Storage Account, select the subscription, Azure Subscription 1, click Apply. Now I want to create a storage account, so I'll select I want to create a storage account and click Next. Resource group, I'll select my resource group, RG Lead AD Lab, and region, let me find West Europe here. For example, storage resource group lead AD Lab. And I'll need to provide new name to create, for example, storage 1. Click create. Now deployment is in progress. And as you can see, I get an error that storage RG Lead AD Lab is not a valid storage account name. Storage account name must be between 3 and 24 characters in length and use numbers and lowercase letters only. So for your information, when you create a storage account, use numbers and lowercase letters only. So let me close this window, close it again, and click Cloud Shell icon once more, select PowerShell, and recreate my storage account. I'll click through all these options really fast, click Apply, create a storage account, click Next, select resource group, select region, West Europe, give it a name, storage, resource group, lead AD lab, and file share will be storage 1. Click create, and again I'll need to wait a bit. Now it's done and it's requesting a Cloud Shell. Now my Cloud Shell is connected to this storage account. Now what I wanted to show you in Cloud Shell, by the way, you can click this button to maximize this window, and let me make it larger like this. Press Ctrl L. It doesn't work here to clear the screen, so I'll type clear. And we can go ahead and create a resource group in Cloud Shell. For this, we've got new AZ resource group command LED. So you type new AZ resource. As you can see, we've got this IntelliSense continuation for our command. So I'll press right arrow button, and we'll need to fill in these properties for this command. So for example, we could go ahead and name our resource rg-lead-ad lab dash. For instance, we could add Western Europe identification for this and select location for this resource group as West Europe. And by the way, okay, let me go ahead and press enter here to create this resource group. Now, if you've already created a resource group, I'll need to warn you that if you accidentally try to recreate the existing resource group, for example, if you retype the previous command, let's remove this part. So we've got already resource named RG lead AD lab, and as you remember, we've created it in North Europe. Let me remove this force parameter. So if we try to recreate the existing resource, this resource will be overwritten. So be cautious when creating a resource with the same name which already exists. As you can see here, we've got this confirm message. Provided resource group already exists, are you sure you want to update it? I'll select no, I don't want to update it. And let's check which resources we've already got. So let me type get-az resource group. And as you can see, we've got one tag, lead AD lab, for RG lead AD lab resource group. And we've got another resource group which is located in West Europe, named RG lead AD lab West Europe. Let's minimize this Cloud Shell and go to the portal menu and to all resources. And as you can see, we've got storage lead AD lab resource here for our storage account. And if we go back to home and scroll down to find resource groups icon and click it, we'll find two resource groups, one located in North Europe and the other one located in West Europe. Let's go ahead and delete the first one located in North Europe. I'll select this resource group. And as you can see, when you select this resource group, you don't get any option to delete this resource group. So you'll need to click the link with the name of this resource group, enter it. Let me close this window. And here you'll get this delete resource group option. As you can see, it's not empty. So if we click delete resource group, that will find dependent resources to be deleted. And to proceed, you'll need to copy the resource group name and paste it here. Like this. Click delete once more, and that will delete the resource group with all the dependent resources which this resource group contains. And we'll get this notification up here in notifications area, if we click it, we'll be observing that this deleting resource group action is running right now. Now it's done. As you can see, deleted resource group is completed. We've got this green arrow, so let me close this notification area, go back to resource groups, and we won't find resource RG Lead AD Lab resource group anymore. Now if we click on Cloud Shell icon and close our Cloud Shell session, then try to reopen it, we'll get this Welcome to Azure Cloud Shell again, and we'll find that resource group RG Lead AD Lab could not be found. So the file attached to our Cloud Shell is gone because it was kept in the resource group we've just deleted. So be cautious when deleting resource groups and the dependent resources. As you can see, it can lead you to these consequences. I did it just for demonstration purposes to let you know. Now let me recreate my Welcome to Azure Cloud Shell. I'll click PowerShell, select Mount Storage Account, select Azure Subscription, click Apply, and now I'll select We will create a storage account for you. Let's read what it means. Azure will create a storage account for you in the selected storage account subscription. Okay, I'll click Next, and as you can see, we're creating a file share CS learned lessons outlook.com. That's the auto-generated name in region North Europe. Now finally, let me go to all resources and demonstrate how to remove some particular resource. For instance, we want to remove this storage account again. For you to know how to remove the resource group with all the dependent resources and how to remove some particular resource or resources in all resources tab. So I'll select this storage account and click delete. Now I'll need to type in delete word to go ahead and delete this storage account and press this red button. Click delete, delete once more, and it's executing delete data, and as you can see, it's done. Deleting command on one selected item. So now you know how to create a resource and how to delete a resource. And by the way, it's very important to delete the unnecessary resources when you don't need them anymore, not to get bills on the resources you are not using. So that'll conclude our demonstration. In this demonstration, we've successfully created 2 resource groups and deleted 1 resource group. We've also created 1 resource group with the help of Azure Portal GUI steps, and we've created a resource group with Cloud Shell. We've also deleted 1 resource group with all the dependent resources, and we've successfully deleted 1 particular resource in all resources pane. And as a result, as you can see, we've got 2 resource groups for now, one which we'll be using for our lab, for building our lab environment, that is RG Lead AD Lab-West Europe, and the one which was auto-created for the storage account for our Cloud Shell. So I'll go ahead and remove this one as well. I'll click it and select Delete Resource Group. Copy its name, paste it here, and click Delete. Now get back to Resource Groups, select Create, name this resource group Cloud Shell Storage. That'll be in East US region, and select Review and Create. Click Create, and that's done. Now I'll recreate my Cloud Shell once more for the 3rd time, but that'll be the last time, and I won't be deleting any resources related to my Azure Cloud Shell. So I'll select PowerShell, mount storage account, select my Azure subscription, select apply. I want to create a storage account, click next, select resource group, that'll be Cloud Shell Storage, select region, East US, provide account name, let's name it Cloud Shell Account 1, it's used, let's name it Cloud Shell Lit Ac, and file name storage1. Click create, it'll take some time. As you can see, deployment is in progress, and it's done. Now, if we minimize the shell, click the Cloud Shell Storage Resource Group, we'll find that we've got Cloud Shell Lit Ac inside of this Cloud Shell Storage Resource Group. Now, one more last thing I wanted to mention here. As you can see, I've made a typo when naming my resource group. You cannot rename your resource group. As you can see, we don't have any options here to rename the resource group. So if we click these three dots or these three dots, we cannot find rename the resource group here. So be very cautious when creating the resource group's name. Don't make typos. Type it as slowly as you can, because you cannot rename it anymore. If we click here, three dots, we don't find the rename option. As I've got this account as a testing account and all these actions are just for demonstration purposes, I'm okay with this name. But if you create the resource groups in a production environment, don't be in a hurry. And one more note here, that's why you should automate things as much as possible, because when automating the process, you eliminate the human typos and mistakes, so you won't need to redo things. That's why we'll be using PowerShell intensively in this course. Now we are ready to create our first domain controller in Resource Group Lead AD Lab Western Europe for our testing lab environment. So let me get back to home, scroll down, and find this virtual machines icon. You can also search for virtual machines here in search box by start typing virtual and select virtual machines. You'll get to the same page. So I'll go ahead and click this create button and select Azure Virtual Machine. And we'll get to this basic step, and we'll need to go through all the steps to configure our first virtual machine. So as usual, we'll need to select our subscription, Azure Subscription 1, the resource group we've created for this virtual machine, which is RG-Lit AD Lab-West Europe. We'll give it a name. Let's name it long-dc1.learnedlessons.com. The region will be West Europe. It's auto-selected. I'll need these default settings for zone options. Self-selected zone, zone 1. Now let's select an image we'll be using. In our case, that'll be, I'll start typing Windows, and I'll select Windows Server 2022 Data Center Azure Edition, Generation 2. VM architecture is selected automatically, x64. I'll skip this Run with Azure Spot Discount option, and as this account is in the free trial period, costs associated with this VM can be covered by any remaining credits on this subscription. And as you can see, we've got an error here. This size is not available in Zone 1. Zone 3 are supported. So if I click this drop-down menu, I'll get all the options grayed out. So let me get back to the zone selection and select the Zone 3 and deselect Zone 1. Now as you can see, I can select the standard B1S, 1 CPU, 1 gig of RAM, and this size of virtual machine is free services eligible. Now I'll provide my username and my password. Make sure the passwords match. I'll also allow inbound ports for this virtual machine, which is RDP port 3389. We can also select SSH port 22 and click Next to go to the disks section. Now here we'll scroll down and I'll select standard SSD disk. Also don't forget about this delete with VM if you want the disk to be deleted when you delete the VM. I'll leave key management for platform managed key, which is the default. And by the way, it's totally okay to select standard HDD disk for this testing purposes. So actually let's change it to standard HDD and see is it okay for our testing environment. Okay, now we are ready to switch to the next tab, which is networking. So I'll click networking, scroll down. As you can see, virtual network will be created for learnedlessons.com-vnet. That will be the virtual network name. Subnet is defaulted to 10.0.0.0. For the public IP, you can select none. And if we place our mouse for this informational sign, we can read use a public IP address if you want to communicate with the virtual machine from outside the virtual network. For now, we'll select none and we'll leave all other default settings here. Again, select inbound ports. This will allow all IP addresses to access your virtual machine, and this is only recommended for testing. Use the advanced controls in the networking tab to create rules to limit inbound traffic to known IP addresses. And I'll also select delete NIC when VM is deleted, select load balancing options for none for now, and select review and create. And as you can see, validation failed for following tab. Basic required information is missing or not valid. So if I click these three dots, because it's hidden out there, and click basics, we can find that something is incorrectly filled in. As you can see, our virtual machine cannot contain underscores or dots. So let me go ahead and remove this part and leave just lon-dc1. Scroll down again and try to run review and create once more. Now it's running final validation, and that'll apply subscription credits. That'll be 0.0.160 United States dollars per hour, which will be covered with free subscription model. Okay, we can see that validation passed, and we can scroll down to read the final report. You have set RDP SSH ports open to the internet. We know about this, and we know that it's a test in VM, so that's okay for us. Read all the information that will be using resource group, lead AD lab WE, machine name is LONDC1, West Europe availability zone 3, that'll be Windows Server 2022 data center, Azure Edition Generation 2, standard, and so on, username. So let me scroll down and hit this create button. Now it started creating this resource, this virtual machine, and as you can see, deployment is in progress, and that'll take some time. And if we scroll down, we'll see what step is it on. Let me make the view smaller, and it's done. Deployment successful, and we can go to this resource. So let's go home. We'll find LONDC here in recents. Again, I'll make it larger. scroll down, here it is, virtual machine, and if we place the mouse on this resource, we can view the resource details, start it, restart it, stop, delete, see the services. We can go ahead and click resource groups and click our RG AD Lab resource group, scroll down and we'll find LON DC1 located here. The public IP address also created in this resource group, and network security group also created in this resource group, as well as virtual network for this particular resource group or resource. Now, if we click LON DC1, we can find its details, the public IP address, and so on, and we can click Connect. So we can scroll down and select RDP or download RDP file. Let's try this one, select. And that'll reveal all the details of this RDP connection, and we can go ahead and download RDP file to connect to this virtual machine. Now, if we get back to the overview of our newly created virtual machine, and we can go down here to the Automation tab, click it to extend it, and we can find Export Template here. You can also find it by searching, by start typing Export, and again we'll click this Export Template button, and that'll generate a template, ARM template, for the future automation process. So as you can see, we've got this ready to download template in JSON format. Here it is, it's pretty long, with all the settings we need to create this virtual machine. Now we can go ahead and click this download button. That'll download this template to our local machine. We also have this deploy option. Let's try to click it and see what happens. And as you can see, that'll create a custom deployment page for us, and we can change virtual machine name, for example, LON DC2. Let's see other settings. I'll click next. And here it is. That'll create this resource with LON DC2 name using this network interface, disk, all the settings we've used in LON DC1. I won't be doing this because right now I don't need to perform this action. So let's get back to our virtual machines. And as you can see, our LON DC is still running. Let's connect to this one. So I'll click on the name of this virtual machine, click connect, click download RDP file, select the file LON DC1.rdp, click connect. I'll provide my password, click OK, click yes, saying that I'm trusting this certificate. And now I'm connecting to this virtual machine I've just created, LON DC1, which is not configured yet, and we'll need to give it a new name, and so on. So we've successfully logged into our first LON DC1 virtual machine created on Azure, and you can see the settings of this virtual machine. It's already configured with LON DC1 computer name, and you can see all other settings related to this particular virtual machine. And installed memory 1 gig, total disk space 130 gigs, IP address assigned by DHCP, IP version 6 address enabled, Windows updates are installed automatically using Windows Update Service, real-time protection on. So congratulations, we've successfully created our first virtual machine and successfully logged in with RDP. Next up, we'll be installing LON DC2, and I'll demonstrate the options we can use to automate this process. Now, some words about Azure's option for free subscription. Let's take a closer look at this free subscription and what it covers. The Azure free subscription is designed for new Azure customers to explore and try out Azure services without initial cost. Here is what it includes. Duration. The free subscription lasts for 12 months from the sign-up date, and it covers free services. Users can get access to popular Azure services free of charge for 12 months. These include compute services like virtual machines, storage services like storage accounts, which we've already created, and container services like Azure Kubernetes Service. It also provides a credit. New users receive 200 in Azure credits, and this credit can be used to explore any Azure service for 30 days. Please note that this credit is available only for 30 days, not 12 months, but 30 days. And there is also such thing as always free services. Azure offers more than 25 services that are always free, and it's subject to certain usage limits. This include Azure Kubernetes Service, Azure DevOps, Azure Active Directory, free tier, and more. Now let's take a look at Azure free subscription. Let me switch back to my Azure portal. Here it is, and I'll scroll down here and click subscription link. Now I'm using free subscription, and you can take a closer look how it looks like. So as you can see, my current cost for free subscription is $1.73, and this is covered with $200 provided within free subscription. If we log into this link, Azure Subscription 1, we can find more detailed information on this subscription like costs by resource, spend and rate and forecast, and so on. Now, let me make it a bit larger to read it better. And as you can see, we've got $198 roughly remaining of free credit which expires in 28 days. Then you can scroll down. You can read about secure score. We won't be talking about this right now because we are talking about free subscription. Now we've got the spend and rate here. We can view details with cost analysis, and I'll make it smaller again. So as you can see, the best part of this $173 is going to storage. Let's get back. And here to the right, we can find top free services by usage. So again, let me make it larger, even more large. Okay, so these are top services we can use within Azure free subscription. We can use 1 gig of Azure Cosmos DB. We can use storage files 1 gig in a month. We can use HDD managed disks, managed disks operations. Let's view more. So here you can find the whole list of free services for 12 months covered with Azure free subscription. We can use virtual machines, BS series, and lots of other different services. If we scroll down, you can find lots and lots different services covered with free subscription. So if you are just starting with Azure, I recommend you to get this Azure subscription and play around with Azure services within 12 months. Welcome back. In a few previous videos, we've covered how to create an Azure subscription, how to create and delete resource groups and resources inside of this resource group. We've also covered how to create a virtual machine within our resource group. Now, let's cover and recap a bit in more details all these concepts which we've used during our demonstration. So let me switch to my slide, and we start with recapping what is Azure subscription, types of subscriptions, and how you can effectively use different subscriptions for different purposes. So Azure subscription is a fundamental concept in Microsoft's cloud computing platform. It serves as basis for Azure resource management and billing. A subscription is Azure logical container where resources like virtual machines, storage accounts, and databases are deployed and managed. And as you remember, it is linked to an Azure account, which is an identity in Azure Active Directory or in a directory that Azure Active Directory trusts. Now, there are several types of Azure subscriptions available for different user needs. As you remember, we've got free subscription. This option is ideal for new Azure users, and it provides limited access to a selection of Azure services free of charge for a specific period. We'll be talking about the services you can use within free subscription a bit later on, and we'll have an overview of these services, and we'll overview the main services free subscription covers. Another type of subscription is pay-as-you-go subscription. This type allows users to pay for the resources they use on a monthly basis. It offers flexibility and is suitable for businesses with fluctuating resource needs. There is also enterprise agreement subscription. It's designed for large organizations. This subscription type offers discounted rates and flexible billing options. And finally, cloud service provider subscription. This is managed by Microsoft partners and is tailored for specific customer needs. Now, subscription management is a critical aspect of using Azure effectively. It involves several key areas such as billing management. This includes monitoring resource usage, setting up budgets, and managing payment methods. Then access control. Azure's subscription utilizes role-based access control. An abbreviation for this is RBAC, to manage who can access resources and what actions they can perform. And resource organization. Subscriptions help in logically organizing resources for better management and cost tracking. And now you know that an Azure subscription is required to use and manage Azure services. Without a subscription, it's not possible to create or use Azure resources. Now, how do we effectively use different Azure subscriptions for various projects? Azure subscription provide a flexible framework for organizing and managing cloud resources. By strategically using multiple subscriptions, organizations can optimize their Azure environment for different projects and purposes. One key strategy is to use separate subscriptions for different environments. This approach involves creating distinct subscriptions for development, testing, and production environments. By doing so, organizations can maintain clear boundaries between their environments while reducing the risk of accidental changes to production resources during development or testing phases. Another effective use of multiple subscriptions is to align them with organizational structure. This might involve creating separate subscriptions for different departments or business units. For instance, the finance department. I've got a diagram here. Let's take a look how you can organize your Azure subscriptions. So, for instance, the Azure department might have its own subscription for financial systems, while the marketing department has a separate subscription for campaign-related resources. This structure allows for more granular control over resource access and usage. Now, multiple subscriptions also facilitate more effective billing and cost management. By assigning different projects or teams to separate subscriptions, it becomes easier to track and allocate costs. This visibility can be crucial for internal chargeback processes or for understanding the resource consumption for different initiatives. Compliance and governance requirements often vary across different parts of an organization. Using separate subscriptions allows for application of different policies and access control to meet these varying compliance needs. For example, a subscription handling sensitive financial data might have stricter access controls compared to a subscription used for public-facing marketing resources. Now, it's important to note that while multiple subscriptions offer these benefits, they also require careful management. Organizations should regularly review and optimize their subscription strategy to ensure it continues to align with evolving business needs. This might involve consolidating underutilized subscriptions or creating new ones as new projects or departments emerge. So, effective use of Azure subscriptions also involves leveraging management groups. This allows for the application of governance controls across multiple subscriptions, helping to maintain consistency and compliance at scale. Now, in our previous demonstration lessons, we've also covered resource groups. Let's take a closer look at how you can effectively use this concept. So if I click resource groups here, you'll find the resource groups we've covered in previous lesson. We've created in previous lesson. Let me switch to my slide and we'll talk about resource group here. So as you remember, they serve as logical containers for resources deployed on Azure, allowing for more organized and efficient management of cloud assets. So resource group holds related resources from an Azure solution. It includes all the resources for a solution or only those resources that you want to manage as a group. You decide how you want to allocate resources to resource groups based on what makes the most sense for your organization. And when talking about effective usage of resource groups, consider the following strategies. You can group by life cycle. Resources that share the same life cycle should be grouped together. This means that they are deployed, updated, and deleted together. You can also group by department. You can create resource groups that align with your organization's department structure, making it easier to associate costs with specific business units. And you can group by environment. It's common to have separate resource groups for development, testing, and production environments. This separation helps in managing and isolating resources based on their purpose. And you can also group by application. Here it is. So let me open the diagram I've created here. An example how you can manage your resource groups. So the final was group by application. You can have separate resource groups for complex applications with multiple components, grouping all related resources together, which can simplify management and provide a clear overview of the application's footprint in Azure. So as you can see, I've got here Azure subscription containing resource groups and separate resource groups for separate purposes, like all resource groups related to web app are kept together. All resource resources related to network are kept within network resource group, and all resource group related to storage are kept in storage resource group. Now let's take a look at benefits of using resource groups. First and foremost, simplified management. Resource groups allow you to manage and deploy multiple resources as a single unit. This is particularly useful for complex applications that use multiple Azure services. Then, access control. By using Azure role-based access control, you can apply specific permissions to a resource group, which then apply to all resources within that group. And of course, one of the most important aspects is cost tracking. Resource groups make it easier to track costs associated with specific projects or departments or environments. And finally, resource organization. They provide a clear, logical structure to your Azure resources, making it easier to find and manage them. Now, some words about best practices when creating resource groups. When naming resource groups, consider consistent naming convention. Adopt a clear, consistent naming convention for your resource groups. This helps in easily identifying the resource or owner of the resources. You can also use tags. You remember when we created one of the resource groups, we've used tags. You can implement a tagging strategy to add metadata to your resource groups. Tags can include information like cost center, environment, or application name. Also, consider regular review and cleanup. Periodically review your resource groups and ensure they still serve their intended purpose. Delete unused resources to optimize costs. Consider resource group life cycles. When deciding which resources to include in a resource group, consider whether these resources share the same life cycle. And also limit shared resources. While it's possible to have resources from multiple regions in a single resource group, it's often better to have region-specific groups for resources that are used together. Now, some important considerations here. A resource can only exist in one resource group at a time. So please remember that you can have only one resource in one resource group. Also, resource groups can contain resources from multiple regions. You can move a resource from one resource group to another. The location of the resource group is separate from the location of resources within it. So you can have resource group in one location and resources in other locations. And when deleting a resource group, you delete all resources contained within it. Remember how we deleted a resource group containing storage for connected to Azure Shell. So again, to remind you, always consider these points when designing your Azure resource structure and management strategy. Welcome back. Before continuing deploying our lab environment, I'd like to cover some more important aspects on the concepts we've used in previous hands-on lesson. So remember when creating new virtual machine, we've created LonDC already. Let me click create once more, Azure Virtual Machine. So remember when creating this virtual machine, we've got all these tabs from basics, disks, network and management, tags, and so on. So let's review and recap some more technologies used in this process. We've already covered subscriptions in detail, resource group in detail. Then we've got this region concept when creating a virtual machine, and also this availability options and availability zones and zone options such as Zone 1, Zone 2, and Zone 3. So let's start with regions concept. If we place a cursor here on this information icon, we can read choose the Azure region that's right for you and your customers. Not all VM sizes are available in all regions. So if I switch to my slide here, we can start with Azure regions. Azure regions are a fundamental concept in Microsoft's cloud infrastructure. And understanding Azure regions is crucial for designing resilient, high-performance applications and ensuring compliance with data regulations. So first off, let's start with regions definition. An Azure region is a set of data centers, physical data centers, deployed within a latency-defined perimeter and connected through a dedicated regional low-latency network, meaning that all the infrastructure is located in one place. This design ensures that Azure services within any region offer the best possibility performance and security, of course. Now, when talking about availability, Azure has 60 plus regions worldwide, available in 140 countries, and this excessive network infrastructure allows businesses to run their applications close to their customers, improving performance and meeting data residency requirements. Now let's talk about some key features of Azure regions. First off, data residency. Simply saying, where your data resides. Azure regions allow to keep your data and applications close to your users and to comply with data sovereignty regulations. Then compliance. Different regions adhere to various compliance standards, allowing businesses to meet specific regulatory requirements. Then proximity to users. By choosing a region close to your users, you can reduce latency and improve application performance. And of course, service availability. Not all Azure services are available in all regions. Microsoft continuously expands service availability across regions. When designing your region, you should consider region pairs. Azure organizes regions into pairs. These region pairs are typically separated by at least 300 miles, which allows for geographic disaster recovery. Some key aspects of region pairs are as follows. If multiple regions experience outages, one region out of every pair is prioritized for recovery. Planned Azure system updates are rolled out to paired regions sequentially to minimize downtime. And data continues to reside within the same geography as its pair for tax and law enforcement jurisdiction purposes. There are also special regions, and these are for US government, the China regions, and German regions. These regions operate under a data trustee model to comply with German data regulations. So it's important to know that when choosing the region, you need to consider the right region for you. And you'll be considering the following factors when choosing the right region. First off, compliance. Ensure the region meets your regulatory requirements. Then service availability. Check if the services you need are available in the region. And one of the most important factors for someone could be pricing. Costs can vary between regions. So when choosing the region, you can have higher prices in one region than in the other one. Also consider proximity to users. Choose regions close to your user base to reduce latency. And of course, region pairs. For disaster recovery, utilize region pairs. Now let's take a closer look at this pricing aspect when choosing the right Azure region. For instance, let's take a look at this table comparing different regions and their prices. For instance, if we take virtual machine D2 version 3, you'll get 0.096 per hour in US East region, and you'll get higher prices for West Europe, Southeast Asia, and Japan East. The most expensive is Japan region for this particular service. And please take a look at the other services comparison in this table. Storage, outbound data transfer, Azure SQL database. For instance, for this Azure SQL database, we've got $15 a month and $18.20 for Japan East region. Now let's take a look at another table for Azure VM pricing comparison across regions. For you to understand the difference between the prices, let me make it larger like this. So if we start with the lowest, we can find that US West region is the lowest. Then US East plus 2% in prices. And if we get down to Australia East, for example, we'll get the whole plus 20% addition to the price for this particular service. We are talking about, let me make it smaller, about D2 with 3 instance with 2 virtual CPUs and 8 gigs of RAM. So again, when deploying the resource, consider the region very carefully. Now, if we get back to our Azure virtual machine creation site, we've also got this availability zone. So when talking about Azure availability zones, first off, we can start with the definition. Azure availability zones are a high availability offering that protects your applications and data from data center failures. This feature is crucial for building resilient cloud architectures and ensuring businesses' continuity. So availability zones are physically separate data centers within an Azure region. Each availability zone is made up of one or more data centers equipped with independent power, cooling, and networking. To ensure resiliency, there is a minimum of 3 separate zones in all enabled regions. So if we switch back to the Azure portal here and press this drop-down menu, we'll find that there are 3 availability zones in this region, which is Europe, West Europe, meaning that if we select all 3 availability zones, if one fails, the resource will be available in Zone 2. If Zone 2 fails, the resource will be available in Zone 3. So these are physically separated data centers within a particular region, which protects applications and data from data center failures. Zone redundant services replicate your applications and data across availability zones to protect from single points of failure. Now, as for the purpose of availability zones, the primary purpose of availability zones is to protect high availability and protect against data center failures. They offer, first and foremost, high availability, which is distributing resources across zones. You can ensure your services and data remain accessible even if one zone goes down. It also provides data residency and compliance. All zones are within the same region, helping to meet data residency and compliance requirements. And scalability. Availability zones provide scalability. Zones allow for independent scaling of services, providing more flexibility in resource management. Now, let's talk about key features here. Zone availability. Availability zones offer three main types of services. Zonal services. You can pin resources to a specific zone. For example, virtual machines, managed disks, IP addresses can be pinned to a specific zone, increasing resilience. There is also zone redundant services. Platforms automatically replicate across zones. For example, zone redundant storage automatically replicates your data across three zones. And services are always available from Azure geographies and are resilient to zone-wide outages, as well as region-wide outages. Now let's take a look at some use cases of availability zones. For example, you can use availability zone for some mission-critical applications. Applications that require high uptime and minimal downtime can benefit from being distributed across availability zones. Also, use cases for disaster recovery. By replicating resources across zones, you can quickly recover from disasters affecting a single data center. And of course, high availability. Zones allow for the design of highly available architectures that can withstand various failure scenarios. Now, let me open this diagram I've created for you, like make it a bit larger like this. And let's talk about best practices for availability zones. So number one, replicate your applications. Deploy multiple instances of your applications across different zones. You also should consider latency. While minimal, there is some latency between zones. Design your applications accordingly. You also use zone redundant services. Where possible, use services that automatically replicate across zones. And of course, test your resiliency. Regularly test your applications to ensure they can handle zone failures. There are also some limitations. For example, availability. Not all zone regions support availability zones. Always check the latest Azure documentation for availability. There is also service support limitation. Not all Azure services support availability zones. Please verify support for the services you plan to use. And of course, last but not least, the cost. Using resources across multiple zones may incur additional data transfer costs. Now, let's compare the costs. Let's have an example of comparing the costs when using availability zones versus single zone. So, in a single zone deployment, all resources are located within the same availability zone. This setup is simpler and generally less expensive, but it doesn't provide the high availability that multi-zone deployments offer. For example, typical costs might include VM cost $100, storage cost $50, and intra-zone data transfer $0. And this solution will cost you $150 a month. When comparing to multi-zone deployment, it will spread the resources across multiple availability zones for enhanced availability and fault tolerance. This setup typically involves replicating resources across zones, which increases, of course, both compute and storage costs. Additionally, it incurs inter-zone data transfer costs, and typical costs might include, comparing to the first solution, $300 a month, because that'll be one VM multiplied by 3. We'll need a VM in each availability zone. The same goes for storage costs, X3 storage replicated across zones, and inter-zone data transfer will get, for example, $20 a month. And as you can see, the prices are much higher here, $150 a month versus $470 a month with multi-zone deployment. But of course, we get significant enhances availability and fault tolerance for the second solution. So to optimize costs when using availability zones, assess your needs first of all. Not all applications require the high availability of multi-zone deployments. Also assess your uptime requirements carefully. Then use zone redundant services. Where available, use Azure's zone redundant services, which can be more cost effective than managing replication yourself. Also optimize data transfer. Design your application to minimize unnecessary data transfer between zones. Consider Azure Load Balancer. Use Azure Load Balancer for distributing traffic across zones, which can help optimize resource usage. And of course, leverage Azure Advisor. Azure Advisor recommendations to optimize your multi-zone deployments for cost. And finally, I'd like to cover one more aspect in our Azure port. Now let's take a look at All Services page in Azure. The All Services page provides access to every Azure product and service. It serves as both a catalog and management portal for Azure's hundreds of services. So services are organized into categories like compute, database, and more. Use the search bar to find services by name. You can also filter the view by selecting categories or favorites. You can see features and recent services on the main page. So selecting a service opens its overview page. You can get a description, basic docs, and highlights here, and options to add a new resource, view resource, or learn more. When you found the necessary resource, you can create or add this resource to deploy a new instance of a service. Choose subscription, resource group, region, and configure settings. Then adjust advanced options like availability zones and tag. And validation occurs before finalizing resource creation. Then you can manage this service. The All Services tab shows existing resources for that service. Take action like starting, stopping, editing settings, and viewing metrics for this particular resource. You can open blades for resources to perform management tasks and filter, search, and group resources. Additional features like getting started guides introduce key concepts for services. If you click on this resource and try to find the documentation for it, the documentation links provide access to tutorials and samples. Pricing tables outline the costs for tiers and features, and service updates highlight new capabilities and offerings. Tips for you to bookmark commonly used services as favorites for quick access. You can leverage search for services you can find browsing. You can also monitor new services and updates on the main page. So with hundreds of services, the All Services page is essential for leveraging the full breadth of Azure's ecosystem. Use it to deploy, manage, and stay up to date on everything Azure offers. Now let's cover the service categories in Azure's All Service page. As I said, Azure organizes its hundreds of services into categories and aid discovery and management. Understanding the available categories help identify the right services for your needs. So I'll try to provide an overview of the key categories and popular services within each. The compute category. This category compute service provide on-demand processing containers, serverless functions, and virtual machine hosting. Key services here in this category are virtual machines, app service, Azure functions, Kubernetes service, batch. The next category is storage. Storage services handle data management across objects, file, block, structured data, and caching. The key services here are blob storage, disk storage, file storage, table storage, queue storage, and cache for Redis. The next category is databases. These databases services provide relational, non-relational, graph, and time series data platform. The key services for this category are Cosmos DB, SQL database, MySQL, PostgreSQL, Azure Synapse Analytics. The next category is networking. Networking services provide private and public connectivity, load balancing, DNS, and content delivery. The key services for this category are virtual network, load balancer, VPN gateway, application gateway, content delivery network. Next up is web. Web services help build, deploy, and scale websites, applications, APIs, and mobile backend. And the key services for web category are app service, API management, notification hubs, CDN, DNS. Next up is mobile category. These mobile services power cross-platform mobile app development, push notifications, and enterprise mobile management. You can find key services here such as notification hubs, mobile apps, Active Directory for mobile devices. Next up is containers. Container services provide management platforms for orchestrating Docker containers and Kubernetes. The key services for containers are Kubernetes service, container instance, container registry, app service on Linux. Next up is analytics. Analytics services enable real-time and batch-based data processing, querying, and visualization. Key services for this analytics are Synapse Analytics, HD Insight, Databricks, Data Lake Storage, and Time Series Insights. We've got also AI plus machine learning category. These AI services empower intelligent ability such as natural language processing, speech, computer vision, and prediction. The key services for this category are Cognitive Services, Machine Learning Studio, Bot Service, and Personalizer. Next up is IoT. IoT services connect, monitor, and control millions of IoT devices and assets. The key services for this category are IoT Hub, IoT Central, Time Series Insight, IoT Edge. Next up is integration. Integration services provide messaging event grid, service-led logic, service-less logic apps, and enterprise service bus capability. And the key services for this category are as follows: event grid, service bus, logic apps, and API management. Security plus and identity. Security plus identity services help protect access to data, resources, and application. You can find Key Vault, Azure Active Directory, or now it's renamed to Microsoft Entra ID. We'll dedicate lots of time for this service in the future. So you can find it in Security plus Identity category. You can also find here multi-factor authentication. Next up is DevOps. DevOps services enable source control, build automation, testing, release management, and monitoring. And you can find here Azure DevOps, pipelines, repos, test plans, and application insights here. Next up is management plus governance. management plus governance services control deployments, configuration, availability, and resources. And you can find Azure Policy, Azure Monitor, Resource Manager, Managed Applications here. So Azure's expansive array of services, categories, and products provide extensive capability. There are hundreds of services, and understanding the portfolio is key to leveraging it effectively. You can study categories relevant to your workloads and explore documentation for each. With broad knowledge of Azure's categories and services, you can build robust and optimized cloud solutions. Now let's do a quick recap of the most popular Azure services. So, Azure offers over 600 services covering a wide range of categories and capabilities. Some core services make up the foundation of most Azure deployments. We've covered the most essential and commonly used Azure services. We've covered popular compute services, namely virtual machines. You can deploy Windows or Linux VMs with full infrastructure control. App service. You can quickly build and deploy web apps at scale. Functions service. You can execute event-driven serverless code without server. Kubernetes service. You can manage Docker containers across clusters from here. Virtual machine scale sets. You can scale identical VMs for large workloads. Popular networking services. Virtual network. You can create private networks with subnets, routing, and security from here. Load balancer. You can distribute incoming traffic across multiple resources. VPN gateway service. You can establish secure connections between on-prem and Azure. Application gateway. You can get optimized web traffic load balancer with firewall. CDN. You can improve performance by caching content at global edge location. Also, there is essential storage services, namely blob storage. You can have scalable object storage for files, media, and so on. Disk storage, block-level storage volumes for VMs. File storage, managed file shares that can be accessed from cloud or on-prem. Storage, reliable messaging queue for workflow processing. And table storage, it's NoSQL store for structured non-relational data. Also, there is key database services like Cosmos DB, globally distributed database for scale and high availability. SQL database, fully managed and intelligent SQL database. MySQL, fully managed and scalable MySQL relational database. Cache for Redis, it's in-memory data store for high-speed access. So this represents the most widely used and critical Azure services for cloud adoption. Mix and match them to create reliable and secure cloud solutions. Consider getting certified or taking training on these core services. Knowing these popular services will give you a great foundation on Azure. Before moving on to implementing Azure resources, I'd like to pay your attention at one important aspect. Let me go to Azure's portal home and click on my subscription. So if you are using free subscription, as you remember, you'll get $200 covering the costs of your resources, which are outside of the free subscription coverage. Let's take a closer look at my subscription. As you can see, let me make it larger, and as you can see, I've got current cost $18.28, which will be covered with this $200 included in 1 month. So this $200 is the sum just for 1 month. After this period, you'll get 11 months more covered with Azure for free subscription and the resources included in this subscription. Now, in any case, whether you have free subscription or pay-as-you-go subscription, you'll need to control the money spent on your Azure resources. Let me enter my subscription, here it is, and take a closer look at the contents of this site. As you can see, your remaining $151 of free credit expires in 24 days. And let's scroll down and see what these $18 have been spent for. We can scroll down and view the details of this sum. If I click cost analysis, we can take a closer look at the resources we are spending our money on. And as you can see, I'm spending the most for UK West location and for this particular resource group, which is RG Lead AD Lab UK West. Now, if I scroll down, if I expand this resource group name, I can scroll down and see the service name. And as you can see, the most of money goes to Azure Bastion. And by the way, the sum is just for 24 hours, 1 day. So be very cautious when using Azure resources. They can cost quite expensive. So when implementing this or that Azure resource, be sure to check its price and if you are sure and if you are ready to use this resource. Okay, that's the information on the resources costs. One more aspect I'd like to show here is that you can, if I go down to subscriptions and click my subscription again, we can control these costs. We can control our bills. So if we go to cost management in Azure subscription, let me expand it, we can enable the budget for our Azure subscription. So if I click budgets here, and if I click add, I can set up a new budget to prevent the situations where I get unexpected bills. So this budget will inform me beforehand that I'm out of money or the money I want to spend on this Azure subscription are limited and I'm informed that I'm close to my limits. So we can name this budget, for example, let's say we want to control this particular subscription and we'll name it lead-budget, right? We can set the period, monthly is okay, and we can set the threshold when we are informed that our budget is close to depletion. So let's say that we want to spend $100 for this particular subscription, as an example, for instance. And now, if you can see, we've got this monthly forecast. So if we continue spending money with this speed, we'll get $40 roughly for this month. So we can go ahead and click next here. So our budget is 100 and the name of our budget is lead budget. Click next. Now we'll need to add our email address. Let's say that I want to get alerts on this email address. And we can set alert conditions. Let's say that the first condition, we want to get actual budget limits. So I'll select actual, and let's say that we want to be informed that the money for this budget is, let's say, 15% spent. So when we spend 15% of our budget, we get an alert. And the second type is forecasted. So this type is good that we know how much money we will spend if we are spending with this speed. For instance, if the forecasted percent of our budget 150%, it means that we're spending our money too fast. So if we get such a warning, we need to take action. So we're good with these settings. Here we need to insert the unique address. This one is okay. And when we are done, by the way, we can set up the language of these informational messages or warnings. And if we're okay, we can go ahead and create this budget. That will validate the settings and set up the budget for us. Now, we will be informed when the thresholds are reached and the speed our money is spent within our budget. So it's quite important information because it's good to control your budget and act accordingly. Of course, we can set up lots of different other settings here like cost alerts, cost analysis. We can use advisor recommendations here, but I won't be covering these settings right now. I hope I'll be covering the settings later on when we'll be talking about the planning, cost management, and billing in Azure. This information is crucial for you before you start working around or playing around in your Azure subscription to get control of your budget. I hope it was informative and I'd like to thank you for viewing. In this hands-on demonstration lesson, I'll show how to use GitHub for the script we've created in previous demonstration and how we can use this script on Azure portal. So first off, I've created Azure Learned Lessons repository, and I'll put my scripts into this repository right now. So for the simplicity, I'll click this Upload an existing file. I'll click Choose your files and select these two scripts I've created, Azure Connect and the script which creates a VM we've reviewed in previous demo. I've named it New Single VM PS1. And by the way, the extension for the PowerShell script should be .ps1. So I'll click Open, and here it is. We've got two files, New Single VM and Azure Connect.ps1. Later on, we'll add more files here. We'll add a script file which will remove automatically single VM, and we'll add two more scripts which will add multiple VMs and remove multiple VMs. But for now, let's just add these two, and I'll press Commit Changes here. So these two files are on my GitHub, and if I copy this link, github.com, Learned Lessons, Azure Learned Lessons, I can use this link directly on Azure. Let me show you how to use Git on Azure portal. So I'll switch to our Azure portal here and make it a bit smaller to get this icon visible, Cloud Shell. So I'll press Cloud Shell. That'll launch Cloud Shell for me, and I'll make it larger again, like this. We'll wait until it launches, and when it's done, we can clear the screen with Control L and check the Git version installed on this Cloud Shell. So I'll type git --version, hit enter, and that'll show me my Git version. So Git is installed and I can go ahead and use Git commands on Cloud Shell. So now I can clone the repository, the remote repository. That's the steps you will be doing to get the scripts on your Azure. So for cloning a remote repository, you type git clone and you paste in the remote repository link which you've copied previously. So the link is, if I paste it, oops, the Cloud Shell working a bit slow. So the link is https://github.com learned lessons /Azure learned lesson. If I hit enter, that'll clone the repository which contains two scripts right now, and if we type get child item command, will list the files which we've just cloned. We can also use ls command taken from Linux, and as you can see, Azure Learned Lessons repository is cloned to my Azure portal, and now it is stored on the storage I've attached to this Azure shell. So we can go ahead and change directory to Azure Learned Lessons project. Hit enter, and now if we type ls, we'll find these two scripts. So if I type cat Azure, hit tab, hit enter, that'll list the contents of my first script, which is Azure Connect.ps1. As you can see, it contains the commands to connect to Azure shell remotely, to Azure account remotely. And we can run these scripts right on Azure portal. So to run the script, I'll type // and the script name. That'll give us some errors, but nevertheless, let's try to run it. And as you can see, it successfully ran the last command in this script, which was get AZ subscription. It doesn't need to run install module because we are already using Azure portal, and it doesn't need to connect to the Azure because we are already connected to Azure. But nevertheless, it ran the command get AZ subscription and revealed us our active subscription right now. Let me clear the screen. So that's how you run the script, which is new single VM.ps1. I won't be running it right now because I've installed this single VM in previous session. Now we need to create a script to remove these resources related to the ones we've created in this script. Now I'd like to show you one more thing, how you can create and modify your scripts. If I switch back to my GitHub repository, and if I go to home, and then actually I need to go to code spaces right here, as you can see. So press code spaces, and you can go ahead and create new code space. We can use the repository we've just created, which is right here, Azure Learned Lessons. I'll be using 2 core, and by the way, it's completely free. So you'll get an instance of Visual Studio Code, which is located online, and you can have access to your code from anywhere. So let's go ahead and create code space. And when this code space will be created, that'll have access to our scripts we've just placed into this Azure Learned Lessons remote repository. So we can open these scripts. Let's open the first one. Let me make it larger like this. And I'll close this terminal window. And I'll close this one. We can also install the recommended PowerShell extension from PowerShell language. For the PowerShell language, I'll click install right away. And while it's installing, let's get back to our Azure Connect script. So as you can see, we can go ahead and modify the script we've created in the previous session. So we can also open new single VM script, which is much larger. And here it is. We can modify it, change it, save it, and rerun it on Azure. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and create a new script which we'll name RM single VM. So I'll click on this Explorer button.